This is the Media Police Post, broadcasting from the Fort Hall School of Government. In this show, we police the state of truth in the Republic. And because truth is communicated to us by journalists and analysts, we have made it our civic duty to put it to the test. We advance from two confirmed truths about the media. One, and according to Roger Stone, the media is either lazy or evil, and for the most part, it is both evil and lazy. That is why the truth, their truth, must be put to a test.
And two, that journalism is verified gossip. In fact, what is presented to us as news analysis is gossip that has been verified by journalists. This gossip has to be ground-truthed. We will assess the state of truth in what they submit to the Republic, and we will pass verdict on what is true and what is not. For the record, we are not journalists, we are thinkers. We are not lazy or evil, and we do not verify gossip. What we give you is the truth that sets you free.
On today's show, we will discuss ideas that reflect unformed and uninformed opinions and ideas that made you stupid. These are narratives that fell into the cognitive trap of we see things as we are, not as they are. Narratives based on conjecture, history, and those that smack of envelope journalism. Welcome, GK and AX.
Thank you. So recently, we have put forward various scenarios of what it would mean for Raila and Ruto to pick the different running mates. Soon, the debate will be over. This week, Azimio puts on a show of meritocracy and carries out interviews for running mate. This is unprecedented. Picking a running mate is crucial because if you play the long game, this becomes the president in waiting. So Kenya's future is being crafted. Will Raila and Ruto pick credible successors to the presidency? Because the person who becomes deputy president is automatically the presumptive president. He must be better, if not just as good, as the president. Now here lies the crux of my problem. Between Raila and Ruto, who will be sensible enough to pick a credible successor? Or who will only want to perpetuate themselves and their power? Put another way, and borrowing from the monarchy, the running mate is like the pretender to the throne. It doesn't mean the person is pretending to be something he is not. It means the person may have a valid claim through a descent from a king and possibly a base of support, but he isn't, in fact, the king. He isn't. If Uhuru Kenyatta was courageous enough to pick a pretender to the throne such as Ruto, why has Ruto recklessly floated options that seem more populist than credible? Even Mzee Moi knew he could not just pick anyone for this job. And upon more reflection, I ask, for whom is this running mate question most important to? Who has more to lose by picking the wrong running mate? Who has the highest state of fragility? That is, who has more to lose by this running mate decision? Is it the guy relying solely on the Kalenjins and the mountain for his presidency? Or is it the guy with any running mate, who with any running mate always has his core support base of 44%? Now, Raila has shown us that with whichever formation, his core 44% remains strong, be it Musalia, be it Kalonzo, 44%. Perhaps in his arsenal now is the mountain factor. Now, while Ruto risks alienating the entire mountain should he not pick one of them as running mate, perhaps the even bigger question is whether there's a first mover advantage by Raila naming his running mate first. We can be sure it will impact the choice that Ruto has to make. Will it be Raila who will dictate whether they are locking the mountain out or embracing it in the 2022 election? That for the first time in many years, a Kikuyu will not be anywhere on the ballot. Ultimately, who will pick a running mate that is actually good for the country? Now, I'm sorry, today I have more questions than answers, but it is because sometimes questions tell us more than answers do.
Okay, so I would like to switch tracks for a moment and talk about the ongoing two-thirds principle conversation. On Thursday last week, the IEBC announced that 43 political parties, including UDA, ODM, Jubilee, Wiper, and ANC, risk being locked out of the August elections for failing to comply with the two-thirds gender principle. These parties are provided with 72 hours to revise and resubmit their lists, and that deadline expires today at midnight. There's only one issue with this. It traps the IEBC in a catch-22 where the likely outcome is the nullification of the 2022 election results. Let me explain. A catch-22 is a paradoxical situation from which an individual cannot escape because of contradictory rules or limits. A good example is that you cannot get a job without experience, but you cannot get experience without a job. And this is what the IEBC is experiencing. To ensure that an election follows proper procedure, the IEBC has to insist that parties comply with the 2/3 gender principle. But the process of guaranteeing such compliance cannot be constitutional. This is because in order to adhere to the principle under Article 81B of our Constitution, the sovereignty of the people under Articles 1, 2, and 38 may need to be sacrificed. This is because during party primaries, the people expressed their political will when they selected their candidates. This means that the party lists submitted are expressions of the sovereign will of the people, a will which the Supreme Court of Kenya has held as paramount importance, and a will which must now be ignored to give effect to another constitutional principle. But if you preserve the sovereignty of the people as embodied through the party lists and the nomination lists, then you sacrifice not only the enforcement of the 2/3 principle, but the legitimacy of our elective bodies as well. Remember that Article 81B suggests that our elective bodies are properly constituted and are therefore conferred with political legitimacy only if they adhere to the 2/3 gender principle. That is, not more than 2/3 of the members are of the same gender. This suggests that the failure to do so renders our elective bodies like parliament or county governments non-compliant with the constitution and therefore constitutionally illegitimate. And what happens if parliament in particular fails to adhere to the constitution? It is to be dissolved, at least according to Maraga's 2020 ruling. This is the catch-22 before the IEBC, an impossible situation in which one constitutional principle is sacrificed at the altar of another, and the courts have been provided with the grounds to nullify our election results. And I can't help but wonder, are IEBC acting intentionally, or are they just being stupid? After all, we are advised to never attribute to malice that which is adequately explained by stupidity or incompetence. So maybe IEBC needed a bit longer to recover from that 5-day weekend. Or maybe, just maybe, all of this is on purpose. Perhaps the IEBC was used to, in effect, reopen nominations and give parties a chance to get creative with their candidates. Or perhaps they are being used to pave the way for a 27 redux and an hourly loss of 1 billion shillings. The only questions are, cui bono? And what color wheelbarrow do they like?
I do like that, and I'd like to also change track for a little bit. Today I'd like to talk about what Raila stands for. The current charge against Raila Odinga from both his supporters and his critics is that he has changed. We know Raila who was detained, Raila who preaches change and eats tear gas for lunch. And it is true, Raila has changed. He has traded his overalls for a suit, a tie, and a briefcase. He's traded the streets for a boardroom, and in the briefcase are the same handwritten notes he had in Ford Kenya, NDP, LDP, and ODM. Raila hasn't changed. He has just changed tact.
Amen.
This weekend, Professor Mutahi said that Raila's agenda for the country is about 3 things: the Nationalist Covenant, constitutional stability, and an economic program. I will focus on the first agenda item, the Nationalist Covenant. The Nationalist Covenant is about national unity. It is about bringing the country together and binding us as one indivisible nation. Jose Pepe Zalaquet, the head of Chile's Truth and Reconciliation Commission, once said that an official acknowledgement of the truth is the key to moving forward. And if we want to unite as the Kenyan nation, we need to begin with the truth. The truth about the historical injustice, exclusion, and ethnic discrimination that has been at the core of the Shifter War, the Pwani Sea Kenya secession call, and the NASA resistance movement. American writer Negley Farson once said also, there is one half of Kenya about which the other half knows nothing about and seems to care even less. He said this about northeastern Kenya, but I argue that it can apply to everyone in Kenya but the 2 ethnicities that have held the presidency. The Nationalist Covenant by Raila is about breaking away from the dominance of 2. It is about recognizing also that, as Abraham Lincoln said, a house divided against itself cannot stand. That is why Raila declared that the divide ended with the handshake. Raila stands for the other. the other 40 communities that make up Kenya and have the right to self-determination and secession, but they also have the right to rule the country that they find themselves in.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah.
Short summary. Thank you for joining us on the Media Police Post. See you next Monday.